It's the last word for your Monday, and let's just get right into this thing, shall we? Because something very strange and frankly very predictable is happening in Ottawa. If you've been paying attention these past few weeks, you will have noticed that Mark Carney has suddenly discovered his inner conservative. And not just in a small way either. This man is sprinting conservative right now, not walking, sprinting toward every conservative policy he's spent years so far mocking, attacking, dismissing, or outright trying to bury, and he has cabinet ministers leaving his cabinet because of it. Let's go.
Welcome to Bakes on Things.
Welcome back to Bakes on Things, the last word. It's like somebody whispered into his ear, "Hey, Mark, you might be headed for an election loss unless you look like Pierre Poilievre for a little while." And Carney said, "Say no more. I need to win. Hand me the costume." Because that's what this all is right now. It's political cosplay. It's a Halloween costume in December. It's the Liberals trying to shape shift long enough to trick you into thinking that they've changed somehow. They're less like the Trudeau government and somewhere in between the Conservatives and the Liberals. And that right there tells me something bigger is brewing. The Liberals are absolutely flirting with the idea of a spring election. And this kind of policy whiplash doesn't happen by accident. It doesn't happen a year from an election. It doesn't happen when you're governing confidently. This only happens when a party is desperately trying to test messages, reposition themselves, rebrand, and hope Canadians develop selective amnesia. And look, they've got a history to go from where we have in the past developed that amnesia. So why not try this policy? And trust me, they are counting on selective amnesia here. They always do. So here's the catch. And this is the part Canadians absolutely must listen to from this episode and others who are writing articles about this. And you can't miss it. None of these policy reversals are real. Not one. They are performative. They are temporary. They are designed with one purpose and one purpose only: to borrow your vote, not to win it. Borrow it. Borrow it long enough to regain power, regain a majority, and then immediately revert back to the very ideology that created all of this mess in the first place. We cannot be fooled this time. Think about the pipeline announcement last week, the grand rollout, the glowing headlines of it, the fact that Danielle Smith was excited about it, the speeches about new economic partnerships and strengthening energy independence, and watching Guilbeault say, "I'm out of here, man." And what was the actual substance in all of this? Just a memorandum of understanding, an MOU. A piece of paper with no deadlines, no commitments, no legal force, no construction schedule, and absolutely zero obligation from either side. Is Guilbeault leaving the cabinet but not the party all for show? It looks like it. You know what an MOU really is? It's a politician's version of "we should grab coffee sometime." It sounds good, it looks good in a press release, but nobody in the real world actually expects it to happen. And guaranteed, neither did Guilbeault. But if Guilbeault looks like he's throwing a hissy fit and leaves the cabinet, it means Mark Carney was serious about the pipeline. It wouldn't be an MOU, though, if he was. It would be a bill in the House of Commons. It would be boots on the ground, legislation, fancy timelines, regulatory approvals, concrete steps, a shovel in the ground. But we didn't get that. We got a staged photograph, an empty promise, and an angry liberal. And the media, of course, treated it like a second coming of energy policy. And see, Mark Carney's changing. That's why Guilbeault left. But scratch the surface even a little, and the whole thing smells really dirty, like a wet cardboard box. And that pipeline MOU is the perfect metaphor for everything Carney's trying to do right now, and perhaps Liberal strategy is placing right now. Postpone the EV mandate, piss off Guilbeault. Reverse the carbon tax, piss off Guilbeault. Kill his own capital gains tax hike. Suddenly decide immigration levels are too high. What's this all sound like? Cut the GST for new homebuyers, bail reform. Where was all this logic 2 years ago, 5 years ago, 10 years ago? Then you plant a Liberal Party member who will throw a hissy fit, doesn't leave the party, just leaves his cabinet position. And all this conservative policy seems like, hey, they are meeting us in the middle. right? But here's the thing, the very same liberals who are now desperately selling these policies as if they invented them are the ones trying to get a majority government. It's all a ruse and it's all been planned. These aren't new ideas. They aren't bold shifts. They aren't sudden strokes of genius or clarity. They are stolen talking points from a party that has been right all along. And that's the conservatives. And the liberals know it. They absolutely know it. And that's why they're stealing it. And now, backed into a corner, of course, facing an angry voter base and a collapsing economy, they're scrambling to copy the very ideas they spent a decade insulting. And then they need to plant the angry liberal to make sure it all plays out exactly how they want it. Let's just take immigration as the easiest example here. For years, liberals dismissed anyone raising concerns about their massive, record breaking immigration targets as racist, xenophobic, or fear mongering. They said everything was fine. They said Canada had unlimited capacity for immigrants. They said the housing crisis wasn't about population, just greedy landlords. They said the food bank crisis wasn't about demand, just conservative talking points. But then they realized all of that was false. And then suddenly, when the polls started tanking as well alongside it, that when rents started to hit those historic highs, when international students were homeless, when shelters overflowed, when Statistics Canada started publishing the uncomfortable truth, suddenly Mark Carney and his ministers threw up their hands and said, oh, actually, yes, immigration got a little out of control there, so we're just going to tweak it a little bit. No real apology for it, no accountability for it, no admission of the damage that it already did, just a quiet pivot, hoping they get your vote, and a hope that you won't notice who was right and who was wrong in the first place. Then there's spending and deficits. The exact same thing. Pierre Poilievre had been warning for years that runaway deficits and wildfire spending would crush the economy, force interest rates up, weaken the dollar, and kill productivity. And it would reduce living standards. He said it over and over again. And he was right the whole time. While liberal ministers waved it away, it's not real, mocked him, Pierre and his slogans, even though the liberals have 10 times the slogans, and insisted everything was fine. And then a funny thing happens. Carney becomes prime minister. His own budget documents confirm that spending was way out of control, that deficits were unsustainable, that operating costs had exploded, that the economy was weak before any Trump tariff ever landed here in Canada. Those were Carney's own words. And what does he do? He campaigns on fixing the mess his own party created, then produces a November budget that doesn't fix any of it. Not a single thing. Not a thing. Not one meaningful correction to anything that his government and the Trudeau government did to this country. Because that's the liberal trademark. Admit the problem only when it benefits you politically. Pretend to embrace the conservative solutions just long enough to gain your confidence as a voter, then deliver absolutely nothing of the sort. Deliver nothing of substance. This is the liberal way. They have governed this way for decades. They grow and shed political skins like a snake. That's how they work. Every time they feel electoral heat, the old skin comes off, the new skin goes on, and they slither back out into the sunlight like nothing ever happened. But we can't let this happen again because it will just be a repetitive history until we've ground ourselves into nothing. Mark Carney is not inventing anything new here. He is following the same liberal playbook they've used since the early 1900s. They take ideas from every political party, conservative, NDP, Green, you name it, and present them as their own. Not because they believe in them, but because they think you believe in them, because they want to neutralize the opposition long enough to stay in power and preferably stay with a majority. They've been in office for more than 70% of Canada's modern history because this strategy has worked well for them, because they've mastered the art of pretending to be whoever the voter needs them to be at any given moment, in particular during an election cycle. But here's the harsh truth. And look, you will never get conservative policies by electing liberals. It's never going to happen. It's never going to happen when they're pretending to be conservative. Never. If you want real pipeline construction, like a shovel in the ground, like this will actually happen, real immigration reform, real fiscal sanity, real tax relief, real economic productivity, you elect the people who actually believe in those policies, not the people auditioning for them. Because that's what it is. That is what is happening right now. That's what you're seeing on your screen with all of these press conferences and political theater. Auditioning, dress rehearsal, costume fitting for a majority. They are trying on conservative policies like outfits in a change room, seeing which ones will fit right now before the spring ever happens, which ones poll well, which ones get applause, and which ones they can parade around long enough to secure the votes they need before they quietly toss them back into the return bin. When Guilbeault left the cabinet, they called Nick Nanos and they said, start polling. Let's see if this worked. Let's see if this convinced conservatives to come our way. And the Alberta Pipeline MOU, that's the biggest tell of all. If even this is a stage prop, everything else is too then. The Liberals don't suddenly wake up and say, actually, conservatives were right about everything for the past decade. They are saying it now because they want something from you, your vote. That means an election is coming in the spring. And when someone only agrees with you when they need something, that's not agreement. That is manipulation. That is narcissism. Canada cannot afford another round of liberal bait and switch governance. We cannot afford to allow this plant of Guilbeault having a fit to work this time. We cannot afford another cycle of promises that never materialize, policy reversals that never stick, and half hearted acknowledgments that come only after the damage is done. If Canadians want real results, real follow through, real leadership, then they have to stop falling for the political theater of the Liberals, and in particular, right now, Mark Carney. Carney's sudden conversion is not genuine. When have you ever seen Mark Carney be genuine? It is not principled, it is not earned. It is a performance, and it ends the moment cameras turn off and the ballot boxes close. Guilbeault would have crossed to the NDP if this was real. If you want real conservative ideas, stop electing Liberals wearing conservative costumes. It's time to stop being fooled, Canada. It's time to stop rewarding the tricks. It's time to send the message that Canadians are done falling for political cosplay. Because real change doesn't come from the people who suddenly copy the ideas they used to mock. It comes from the people who believed those ideas before they were polling well. And Canadians deserve the real thing, not the imitation. Thanks for watching Bakes on Things. The last word for your Monday. I hope you had a great Monday. We'll join you again this in the morning on Tuesday for the first sip at 6 a.m. We'll see you then. Have yourselves a great Monday evening.